Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Machaiah. Welcome to this stellar panel, Unlocking India's Gaming Potential. I have some veterans from the industry here. I've got Sanket from SuperGaming, Imtiaz from YesGnome, and Inad from Reliance Games. The topic is Unlocking India's Gaming Potential. And before we start off, how about a round of introduction, all of you all, starting with you, Inad, and we'll go to Imtiaz and then Sanket. A round of introduction, then we'll start.
Thanks, Match, for being on the panel and moderating it. And pleasure to be here. Hi, guys. I'm Ninad from Reliance Games. Been in gaming for almost 25 years now. I was one of the first handful of guys in India to start gaming. Was the co-founder of India's first gaming company, India Games, and it's been a fun ride the past 25 years. Been with Reliance Games, and I oversee the corporate development and look at global publishing and alliances. Uh, yep, and happy to be here and exchange thoughts and views with my fellow co-panelists.
Hey guys, my name is Imtiaz Hussain, and I'm a co-founder and COO of a gaming company called YesGnome, based out of Hyderabad. Been building games on very popular IPs from Hollywood, likes of Star Trek, and an IP called Adventure Time from Cartoon Network, and Kingsman from Fox. Built, released it, published it ourselves, had decent success so far. Going after our big mega hit. That's what we are working towards. So good to have. I've been happy to have be part of this panel here. So.
Hey everyone, I'm Sanket. I'm one of the co-founders of SuperGaming. Super excited to be here and talk about India's gaming market. Um, uh, at SuperGaming, we're building a game called Indus, a small little game called Indus, which you might have heard of. And apart from that, we've built some games in the past as well called Maskan and Silly Royale, Battle Stars. Again, some other games that you might have heard of. So I've been in the gaming industry for about 5 years. I look after some parts of marketing, some parts of product strategy, and a bunch of other odd jobs that I guess a founder has to take care of. And then in the past, I've been in tech startups all my life, but before this, I was doing a very diametrically opposite thing, which is building B2B SaaS and enterprise products. So in marketing and SaaS roles. But it was a very interesting journey, building bootstrapped companies, and making decent amount of revenue with that. So yeah, that's me, and yeah, looking forward to the rest of the panel.
Thanks, Sanket. I like the humility in your answer of the small game. But first question, I know the previous panel also spoke about trends in gaming, but a quick round of from anybody can start. Sanket, you can start, considering you went last. Is what are the trends in mobile gaming looking like for you at the moment?
So when it comes to India gaming, mobile is still where it's at, right? That is where we has the largest share. It has the largest ecosystem. But when it comes to mobile gaming, at least the segment, the area that we are in, we still feel battle royales are where it's at, right? That still occupies majority of the mind share. That is what has the maximum number of players, the maximum amount of money coming in. I think on the casual side, I'll leave it up to others to comment on it because they might understand that space better. But yeah, I think that's where things are on battle royale. And I think the other interesting trend that we like about the Indian market is the number of pairs. So India has always been thought about this country which has a lot of, hey, you want to get DAO, come to India. But India is not just a DAO market anymore, right? There are there are different reports, but this one number that everyone seems to agree on is there are about 100 million people who pay in games. And that has seen a significant jump. So the being able to monetize that scale in India, that's really grown in the last couple of years, and that's something that will continue to grow. And that's the other big thing that we are very excited about.
Yeah, I think the Lumika report said 130 million users pay for games in India.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, Hussein. Sorry, Matthias.
Yeah, so that's interesting, right? What Sanket actually covered is very interesting point. Mobile gaming in general across the world seems to be having a significant growth in the past, but now it seems to be very on the slower side. But what's happening in India is super exciting, right? I mean, you have almost like 550 million gamers, and we should actually define what is gamer here in terms of like gamer is someone who actually spends almost like 7 8 hours a week, and that is maybe reasonably the same amount of time that you actually spend on Netflix in a week, right? And or maybe more, right? So that way, these are the people who are actually spending time playing games in across genres and playing, spending money. What is more important is that India was looked at as a downloaded market in the sense people can just do it only to go up in the charts, but not necessarily anymore. Now people are paying. Paying for the entertainment that they're having, because it's a form of entertainment, or the oldest form of entertainment, I could say. It has been digitalized now, and so that way it is super exciting. As a mobile gonna be continue to be the largest market share when it comes for gaming entertainment. What is more interesting is that since you just mentioned about mobile gaming, but I would also like to cover a little bit on non-mobile platforms too. That seems to be very interesting. Like backstage we were talking about how India is producing content which is beyond mobile right now, right? And I see a lot of developers coming out building content for consoles and PC. That actually demonstrates or indicates the point that, hey, these are people who grew up playing games, and some of us also grew up playing games, but these are the real OGs who played games all their life from the maybe like 7 8 years old, right? And so now they want to build some content which they are very really passionate about. So super excited about that space there.
Yeah, Ninad.
So yeah, I mean, I kind of resonate with what both Sanket and Imtiaz mentioned. That yeah, I mean, we have been perceived as a download first, mobile first, download only country for a long time. That hey, get your DAOs in India, but the conversion might be very low. But interestingly, we are seeing that trend change. I mean, 100 million users or 100 million plus users spending on in-apps is a big number. We also have seen it in our studio. I mean, one of our games, WWE Mayhem, has been, for us, India has been a top five country from a download perspective for the longest time. And the past few months, we are seeing it, even India come in the top five from a revenue perspective for us. And that is a good sign that people are not only loving the content, but they're also willing to spend on it. And what Imtiaz mentioned, that we are not just looking at mobile as a platform for entertainment. We were talking back then, and we are seeing that developers today are looking at multi-platform approach for their games, and PC, console, uh, Nintendo Switch. I mean, Raji is available as a game on the Nintendo Switch. A bunch of other games are there.
Yeah.
The Steam Deck is getting a good interest. We are looking at moving or extending beyond mobile only, and we have been for the longest time a pure play mobile gaming company, but we are looking at other platforms, including the Switch, which we are looking to roll out this year. So it's an interesting time to be in the Indian gaming ecosystem. I think the topic for today should not be unlocking, because the potential is already unlocked. It's how to scale the potential now.
Yeah.
I think one point that I want to add to it is also the fact that um, there's a lot of Indian content also coming out in games, right? Up till now, I mean, yeah, sure, we had a representation in movies. I mean, Bollywood is large across the world, influences a large part of culture. But when it came to gaming, I mean, we're still experiencing like, Western games or like games from other parts of the world. But now a lot of Indian developers, I mean, us included, are building content that, I mean, if you have 450, 500 million gamers, right? They need games that they can call their own. So now there are multiple studios like, building games with Indian content, so that like, people can take pride, they can connect with that content a lot deeper. I mean, why should only your Japanese, Nordic, Greek mythology, like, why should all games be like, based on that itself? I mean, when we had such great like, culture and mythology and to sort of fall back on. So that's one of the other big trends that I'm seeing.
Yeah. Actually, very interesting to say that, because almost most indies now seem to be going the big IP route, which is primarily centered on Indian stories. There's a bunch of them that we had at the India Pavilion at GDC as well, which was similar to this. Ninad, the question to you is, Reliance Games is also a big publisher. I mean, you've been in the industry for a long time. What kind of games is Reliance looking at from a publishing perspective? And do you keep India in consideration of the market before selecting the game? Not even publishing, before selecting a game, do you keep India as a market, or what is your thesis like?
Sure. So, I mean, I'll answer it in two parts because it's a two-part question. As a business, as a company, we're structured in two verticals. One is brand RG, Reliance Games, which is more focused on mid-core, more Western audiences. So games like WWE Mayhem, American Dad, which also appeal to an Indian audience, but are predominantly focused on the Western markets, get published in the brand RG. And then we have the India focused business, which is more casual, which is Zapak. So today we have possibly the number one kids game publishing angle under Zapak, where we have IPs like Little Singham. We work with partners like Warner Brothers Discovery, Sony TV, and then create games based on IPs like Kiko and Super Speedo or Honey Bunny, Little Singham, all so various IPs which appeal to kids. Plus, we have our own cricket games. So depending on the markets which we cater to, we publish games on those lines. So if I am talking to a developer with primarily or predominantly focused on the India audience, then I would look at possibly a game in the casual gaming genre. And if it's global, then it can be mid-core and casual. I mean, we are in fact looking to acquire a bunch of games in the hyper-casual space. So it all depends on
Interesting. Okay.
on the genre of gaming, the market we cater to, and most importantly for the business, the revenue potential of these games.
Okay. Interested in hyper casual because we've had a lot of, I mean, things happening in the hyper casual market as well. Sanket, to you, I know you told me about the flavor being, battle royale that you as a studio. You had a bunch of, I mean, Indus, of course, is the game that all of us are looking for, right? Almost everybody in India is looking at Indus and see what's going to happen. But you also had some really cool games like Mask Gun, Battle Stars. What is the idea? I mean, from a super gaming perspective, what is it that you like? What is the funda? Like, what are you trying to like?
Right. I mean, we've built a bunch of games in the past, but if
Yeah,
you had to look at the last 6-7 years, I think multiplayer games is really what we've built our specialty in.
yeah,
And so pretty much everything we've built in the last 7-8 years, has been multiplayer. And the reason to do that is one, I mean, multiplayer games are, while they're a lot more difficult to build, but they have a lot more depth, they have a lot more replayability.
yeah.
Just, I mean, different set of players coming in, it becomes a very different sort of game as well, right? And there's all of those social aspects. There are all of these different ways to be able to express yourself. So multiplayer games is what we have made our specialty. But if I had to look at the last couple of years, I think I would say shooting and battle shooting is our specialty. No matter where we start off,
Yeah.
we end up converting that game into a shooting game or a battle royale game. So I would say that's sort of become a specialty, and it is not easy to build shooting games, right? And it's definitely much harder to build battle royale games. So once you have built that expertise, and that's across engineering, game design, art, that's what we're looking to leverage going forward.
Okay. I have a follow-up question, Sanket. You said shooting is a very difficult genre, but I also know you guys do a lot of research. I think for a lot of developers, that is something that people don't hear about, right? Like the kind, like you'll actually have, like, I know Asian Games gold medalists and others who come and give you all, which is really cool to know for a lot of developers, the kind of research that goes into it. Anything on that?
Sorry,
I mean,
what was the question again?
the question is the kind of research that goes into building these games. What
Right.
is that like?
So I think shooting, there are multiple aspects to it, right? One is the engineering aspect of it itself, right? If you're shooting on your device, it has to ensure that, it actually hits the other person, on their device as well. There can't be I mean, the amount of lag that you can have over there, is very, very small, right? I mean, so that's one part of it. Then there are the game design parts of it. There's the art part of it. So, you obviously have to understand, different guns, different weapons, the ballistics of it. Now, in a lot of countries, you can actually go and, just buy those guns, or go to a shooting range and check out check out all of those guns. Over here, a lot of that research has to happen online. So that's the other part to it, that goes into building shooting games. But I would still say, the engineering challenges of solving it, and for solving it for low end devices to high end, all the way to high end, or actually high end all the way to low end, because low end is where the challenges are.
Yeah.
That's the big challenge.
Okay. Uh, Imtiaz, I know you guys have done a bunch of stuff globally over the years, but is YesGnome now, like I asked Nina the same question? I mean, Sanket has businesses across, but you as YesGnome, are you looking at the Indian market? And if so, what is it like?
Yeah, I mean, this is interesting because when we started off the studio, we always felt that, if you really want to be successful, you want to build globally, right? And build it for global market. And that's what our intent was when we started off building. So we licensed out IPs like Cartoon Network, CBS Interactive, Foxes, DreamWorks, and built content, released it for the global market, got a lot of love from Apple and Google, made a decent, and had a decent success there. Now, around 2016, 2017, that's when we started looking at, what, there's lots happening in India too, right? And that's where things were growing up, thanks to Geo and so on and so forth, right? Whatever happened during that phase. People were, a lot of smartphones in the market, inexpensive smartphones, reasonably affordable for people to get it. And as a country, we, as a market, we are mobile first, right? In the sense, people, if you look at other markets, people started off with console, or they started with arcade and then got into TVs and then consoles and so on, and then eventually PC, and then graduated to mobile. For us, majority of the gamers that you have are primarily mobile first, right? So for them, building content was very important, and we have built that skill in ourselves too, right? And as a team, we have been building content for mobile, and so we started looking at India as a market, started looking at building content which is very very culturally related to the Indian audiences and so on, right? If you look at games like with Sanket covered, like BGMIs and Free Fires, they're clocking almost like 200 million and upwards of that, right, in annually. So that itself calls about, it's a serious business to be in. And more importantly for us, we also figured that India can, when you're building the products, we always felt like, it's going to be India first product, this product especially that we are building right now, and eventually release it for global market. And I think majority of people here on the panel and also watching and doing stuff for India market, they always felt that, hey, it's going to be India first and then global, right? And the advantage that we as a market we bring to the table is the CPIs in India is much lower compared to any other market, right? And that actually helps us to keep on experimenting, keep on do that A/B testing, and really get those cohorts, try to see how it's working, and so on. So we as a company also started looking at India as a market, and apparently there was a notion, hey, India has been looked as a real money gaming market. No, that's not real. If people and audience here are from different part of the world, please consider that India is not just RMG. It's the larger portion of the revenue also comes in from free to play, which is almost like 50%, if not more, right? So that way, we actually pivoted and started building content for India and so on.
Okay. Question to all of you all, actually. I mean, and I want to hear like each one's views because you're, I mean, is a publisher, you're a publisher, and you also have your own games. But Sanket and Imtiaz, you all do different games for the Indian and global market. Uh, and in India, a lot of companies that we, when as IGDC, when we talk to different developers, is the ARPUs, right? I mean, while the revenue is talking 130 million, but what is the ARPUs looking like? Do you see that an increase? Because I know from compared to global, we're not at a sub dollar, we're about a 20, 30 cent kind of a market. Do you see that increasing, and how is it? Or do you see volumes per user increasing?
I think that really depends from genre to genre. So, for example, I mean, there are some games of ours, like, where an Indian user would give us, like, 1/10 or 1/20th of what we would make from a US user, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, when it comes to, like, mid-core or hardcore segments, I mean, over there, like, obviously the ARPU goes higher. So I think it's a very genre by genre question. But yeah, I mean, yeah, if you have to look at it by large, yes, the volumes will have to make up for, like, the lower ARPU is what I would say, like, it's a sort of thumb rule to assume.
Okay.
I would like to add a point there, Sanket, that's interesting, right? If you look at across the world, generally the mid-core to high-end games are actually having the largest RPUs. But interestingly, if you see in India, it's the similar pattern, right? Even BGMIs and Free Fires are the serious gamers are actually having high RPUs. But what is more interesting in India is something I would like to call out is that there is an interesting something interesting happening is with the tier 2 towns and tier 3 towns, right? And you see a lot of players coming in from there, and someone who, and very likely they might be people who would not be never made a transaction on online transaction, and gaming was their first transaction, right? And they will do. In fact, the game that we are testing right now, when we do this survey calls with them, and they say, you know what, we never spent on online commerce and never spent on it. This is the first, starting point for us. So it talks about how people are looking at gaming. It talks about how this can actually open up a lot of things around in terms of the kind of spending habits that user would have, and so this will eventually gonna do that ARPU, right? I mean, I think some of the reports were talking about average paid users.
66%, sorry,
Yeah.
66% is non-metro users in India. So
Yeah, so that itself calls out, right? And you have like $20 to $30 is average spend, and that is annually, right, for the paid user. So that's pretty good for this kind of a market.
sorry, Ninad, any
Yeah,
thoughts?
I kind of uh, take some key insights from both what Sanket and Imtiaz said, where uh, yeah, the ARPU is relatively lower than what we look at from a global perspective, but I think the half a billion users hopefully will help compensate for the difference in the ARPU value. Having said that, because I mean, yes, we are predominantly 66% of our gamers come from tier two, tier three cities. Uh, and if you interestingly look at, I draw an analogy to FMCG, right? I mean, we introduced the whole sachet concept to the world where we kind of had shampoo sachets being sold. I think what we need to do is introduce something similar, and I think it's already happening at various levels to get the first time gamers engaged and hooked onto your product, and then once you form that habit, people do not mind spending. And while they may be from tier two, tier three cities, we also see some of these pockets have significant amount of disposable income. So it's all about forming the habit, right? And if you can, and that calls for good quality content. Gone are the days when people would say, "Oh, for a game out of India, this is a good game." You are competing on a global platform. You can't have a game out of India. You are competing. If you're competing with the PUBGs of the world, you have to have a game of the same quality.
Yeah.
So I think the ARPU will get there. It's just a matter of forming the habit and people getting more and more quality content to consume.
I agree. I think also we have an advantage in India of UPI and all of that coming in. I think
Yes.
it's become a lot more easier to get the user hooked on, and payment structures and payment
Correct.
methodology has become far more simpler compared
Yeah.
to global, and that's an advantage that I think India has. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Uh,
also I think with Indian content, right? Like, I mean, the affinity to pay, or like, I mean, you'll probably be like, one, more people will be paying for like, Indian content when that happens in games. And secondly, maybe people will be ready to pay higher prices as well, because I mean, they're just able to relate to that content, like, a lot better.
yeah.
So again, for us, it's a thesis that's yet to play out, but like, we are seeing early signs of that.
Yeah, interesting. I have this one more point that I would like to quickly add there is that interestingly, people started noticing that, hey, you know what, I'm paying for Netflix. Hey, I'm paying for Hotstar. I'm paying for Prime Video and all those Z5s of the world, which OTT platforms. But what I'm spending time is like almost like 2 3 hours on an average, right? But I'm spending more time on to this form of entertainment. Why not? I should pay for that, right? And that realization has been built, and the spending habits in the new generation, they grew up consuming digital content. They grew up spending money onto the digital content. So there would be a sudden shift that you could see in where, but maybe next year when you're talking about the same thing, ARPU would be double or maybe much more than that, right? So that is where we are
Yeah, I
going.
think interestingly, the OTT thing is good because I mean it's very true because you see a lot of people who are migrants in different cities doing gig work kind of thing, and all of them are hooked onto their mobiles, and their basic consumption is not on a big screen, is on a mobile really, and I think that's a big potential in India that's being tapped. So continuing from there, we have a lot of original IPs being built out of India. I mean, Sanket, you guys have been in the forefront of it. Ninad, to you. You had bases, you had a lot of successful IPs. Actually, you and Imtiaz have had a lot of successful IPs based on movies, right? Successful Hollywood movies. Um, the flip side to that, is that a better model than selecting or working on proper original IPs when you know you have a storyline already being built and you build over it into a game? Or what is it like? What do you think works better?
So I think uh, I think both are equally difficult, right? I mean, when you work on IP-based games, there are a lot of parameters and IP guidelines that you have to work within, and yet make a good game which kind of monetizes well. And with a non-IP-based game, or when you're creating, I would not say, when you're creating an original IP, you don't have the comfort that the IP is known. You have to build that IP. So I think both have their challenges, but the biggest challenge is building a good game. I mean, if you don't build a good quality game, irrespective of whether you may have the best IP in the world, but if it's not fun, people won't enjoy it. People won't pay for it. So that's my take on it. I mean, happy to hear what Imtiaz and Sanket have to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, I can quickly comment on that since you said that, hey, you know what, you licensed out IPs and built content on it. To be honest, when we started off doing that, the IP owners were not looking to make money from all these IPs. They were looking this more like a marketing. Hey, you know what, there is a movie coming out. Let's build a game on that. And we also wanted to take advantage of that because there is a marketing budget that goes out with the movie. And we want to ride on that, right? So we took the license, we took the, we wanted to build content on it and release it. And obviously you get love from Apple and Google, get featured for obvious reasons because there is a lot of PR on it. But what we started also realizing is that two things. One, IP will give you the initial push. That's it, and later on it's just going to be the game. So game design is the king. You need to make sure that you have proper hooks where people are stuck around and playing the games and having those hooks to spend money and so on and so forth. So that's number one. Number two is that IP owners also started realizing that this is a revenue method, right? I mean, in the sense for them, it is a revenue channel too. So they have dedicated people who actually look at the P&L of it. Hey, if I license out this IP, what kind of money I'm making on the game, right? So for them, it's a business too. So you just back in the days, it was very easy for someone to get the fairly easy to get. I would not say very easy, fairly easy to get an IP. Now it's very difficult. It's very competitive because IP brings a lot of value. But like I said, game design is the king. You really need to make sure that the game design is not thoroughly done, and that's when it will translate into the revenue that you trying to go after.
Yeah. Sanket, like I know, like with Indus original IP, but also marketing, right? What sort of marketing plans and spendings help when you're looking at the world market? I mean, Scopely stated that Monopoly Go generated $2 billion in revenue, and they spent about $500 million in marketing spends. Uh, but what do you think? Like with Indus, we've seen a lot of action. I mean, releasing a game at Times Square was a highlight for all of us. But what are the marketing spends like, and how important is it to spend a lot of marketing, especially when it is releasing original life?
Sure. I mean, I wish I had like $500 million to be able to spend, but unfortunately, we don't. I mean, we've taken a slightly different path to it.
Yeah.
I think one of the good things that we did with Indus was, I mean, while the game was in development, I think we have been talking about Indus for what, 1.5, 2 years now. And while it might seem like a long time to, keep talking about it and to also maintain that, conversation and buzz around it. But I think what that has helped us do is it has really helped us build community at the ground up level. So we have done, I mean, as soon as we had something that, we could put in players' hands, we started off, by actually doing playtests in first in our own office and then in different cities. We've always involved the community in giving feedback and actually helping us shape the product. One playtest we get feedback, 2 weeks later we've actually shipped what they wanted. So there are these different things that we did at at the community level, and now we are doing city tours. So what we want to do is we want to go and shake every player who wants to play Indus. We want to go shake their hand, right? Because I mean that's something we are uniquely placed to do, right? In India, right? So that's what we have been doing. I mean, it's been a lot of hard work. We've organized a lot of events. I mean, building games is what we do. Organizing events and stuff is not what our core business is, but that's something we've built expertise in, and I guess now. And yeah, I think all of that is adding up. So we have today we have about 10 million, over 10 million pre-registrations for Indus. So yeah, hopefully we don't have to spend anywhere close to that kind of UA money, but with time, the community that we've built up gives us that big bang launch that we're looking for.
Nice. Because it's interesting you said this, because one of the questions that came from the audience was, don't you think that content curators and esports players are playing a major role in growing the industry in India? The answer is yeah. Sanket has told you where it is. It's about building the community and really helps unlock a lot of potential of your game, and also gives you constant real-time feedback on where your game is heading.
Yeah, so we've
Uh,
actually involved, like, yeah, we've also involved, I mean, content creators and esports players as well, right from the early days itself. So we've had, like, esports players coming, playing builds. We've actually had, like, an esports team sitting in our office and, like, giving feedback on our builds, like, every day, every week for, like, I think a couple of months. So I think involving all of them in the development itself, I think that was super useful.
yeah. Sanket, actually, it's an audience question, but I want to ask you one more, and then I'll go to both of you all. Like in Indus, we've seen a lot of focus on having very good female-oriented characters, right? Which hasn't been the case in a lot of games in the past, at least in India, at least. And that's a really interesting thing because one of the audience here is like, um, should gaming companies employ to address the diversity and inclusivity within the gaming industry? I think I'm going to, I mean, we, at IGDC, we're starting a Women in Games initiative, which is going to be rolling out soon. But that being said, I think getting good, positive women characters in games is important. And what are the thought behind? And then I'll go to Imtiaz and Ninad also for your suggestions here.
Sure. Yeah, so I think that's, I mean, you've hit the nail on the head, right? Like, so I think one of the key ways we're doing that is by bringing, so, like, when you say heroes within games, I mean, we have these, I think, I don't know how good
Yeah,
the background is, but
yeah,
we
it is.
have,
It is.
yeah, a
You
lot
can
of
see it.
good
Yeah.
female characters, not just in Indus, but, like, even the previous games that we have built. And the way we have built that is, so for example, this is Moni, but we have another character called Hina, who's actually a Indian Olympic shooter. So we actually collaborated with her, like, we said, hey, we want to bring you within the game, like, and then we actually built a character with her, right? And now she's very happy with, like, how the character has come out. I really wish, like, we can get this in the hands of, like, lots of people soon, but that's really how we go about, like, ensuring that we're bringing in diversity by bringing in, like, a lot more female avatars and characters.
Okay. Imtiaz, Ninad,
Uh,
how important do you
yeah,
think is to increase the diversity in the industry?
Yeah, I can quickly comment on that because it's very important. Thanks for bringing up that question, Alicia. Um, See, we have to look at who are our audience, right? And when we all agree that, hey, 40% of audience are female, then you really need to make sure that you have good female employees who can actually help you in building the content too, right? I mean, if you are building the content and for someone who doesn't understand the psychology of it, how it needs to be played, and so on and so forth, right? So that's one part of it. Number is that from the leadership standpoint too, right? If you also need to make sure that in your -1 leaderships or the main leadership, you also need to make sure that you have diversity so that there is proper decision making happening or across. So that is an effort that we put in, and like you said, in IGTC also there is an effort that has been put in to bring in more and more women leaders into the gaming space and help them in their career path. So yeah.
Ninad?
Yep. So yeah, speaking about both from a game play perspective or gaming character perspective and increasing the representation of women in the team, I think we have been working over the years on ensuring that we kind of have an approach on the both sides. I mean, I remember way back when the feature phone days, one of the games we had built was based on the graphic novel from Graphic India called Devi, and that was kind of one of the first Indian female superhero games that we had launched, and this was in the early 2000, mid 2000s somewhere. Uh, uh, about having more women in the workforce, well, that's a no-brainer. Like Imtiaz said, if you are building games for 40% of Indian gamers or close to 60% of international gamers who are females, you need to have people who kind of, or you need to have teammates who are and who understand that gamer psyche, and a lot of our team uh, has, I mean, be it production, be it art, be it game design, we make a conscious decision to have these people on board. I mean, the game designers who who are our female colleagues are having significant experience in this space, right? And it really helps because for a very long time gaming has been perceived as a very male dominant industry, and I think we need a shakedown as a ecosystem to have different ideas and diverse ideas to bring more interesting games to the market.
Yeah. Point taken.
Next time we should have
Yep.
a female panelist.
Female. I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tausif, that's feedback for you all. But Jokes apart, closing comments. We've just got 5 minutes left. It's like a rapid fire. You can't talk about your own company, about your own game. 3 questions. Sanket, to you first. Company to look out for. Bullish on which game?
I'm gonna say SuperGaming.
Okay, company to look out for. Bullish. Okay. What are the best emerging market globally?
For me,
Besides India. Yeah.
I think India is like at this great inflection point right now. Like it's a great time to be in gaming in India.
Okay. Imtiaz, same question. Which are the companies to look out for? Because you do the investor publisher connect at IGDC and you
Yeah,
meet a bunch of folks and you mentor a bunch of folks.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, there are a bunch of companies who are really doing Super Gaming. I was a daily active user on their games, so I really love the content they produce, and Reliance also. So overall, while you have large companies, I would say that there would be this emerging star, from smaller size of the companies, who is like the other day I met this one kid who is like he's an artist and also developer and building this kick-ass game on the PC, right? So you would have this success stories coming out with this 2-3 people studio coming out from India. So that is something I'm really excited about. What was the second question now?
Which is the best emerging market? Besides India, what do you think is the
Oh,
best emerging market?
India, two, I would say. One is obviously MENA region. I'm really super excited. The whales are really good. You really need to make sure that you have the right content there to monetize. Number two is obviously Brazil, South America. So that is the area that we really like to focus on. So,
Ninad, for you, which are the markets you're looking at from a publishing perspective?
From an expansion perspective, I
Yeah.
think, yeah. So I'll leave out the obvious ones like India or US, Europe, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we are looking at Middle East, like Imtiaz said. I mean, the MENA region has some really interesting trends coming up, and we're seeing a lot of consumption happening in that space. LATAM is another market. We are also looking at the Southeast Asian or the Asian market to expand our footprint. So it's and the world is my oyster, man. I mean, I don't think I'm going to leave any country untouched to kind of get my games out there. If they're playing games on Antarctica, you'll find a Reliance Games game over there.
like it.
Yeah. I mean, it was a good discussion, but actually, I agree. Like, I don't think any market is sacrosanct or any market is untouched. I think with internet penetration across in India, at least we see that a lot. The tier 3 towns, like we got somebody from a Nagaland developing a game and on PC, which we never imagined about 5 years back, or a year back and a half, right? Until we saw him and he saw his game, everybody was like flabbergasted to see a game out of Nagaland. But I think we're having a lot of these stories. We're having a lot of tier 2, tier 3 towns, not only being players but becoming emerging gaming hubs. I mean, there's Rajkot. There's a bunch of smaller towns in India that we didn't think had the technical or the gaming capability to build something. Who are building some really cool products. And like Ninad said, I don't think it's India's unlocking India's gaming potential. It's really scaling India's gaming potential. Thank you, gentlemen. It's been a wonderful discussion. To the audience, we tried taking the questions that we could. Apologies if you couldn't take all the questions. Thank you. See you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye bye.